How's it going, you lot? I want to have a little talk about some stuff here in a minute, but before I do that, remember in the last video I did about amplifiers, that's the last video I uploaded, I showed this amp here and I said it needs a bit of work on it. Well, I've identified, I did a little bit of testing, this valve here is a bit tired, so this is an original Zitagi one actually, EL509, it's the original valve that was in it, and this was on this side. And in the past, whoever owned this before me, this bar, I've had this burner a while, it's been on the shelf, it's always been a bit tired. This one has been replaced. This is one of those Russian valves. Yeah, this one was working okay, it was that one that weren't any good, that Zitagi one. So I've replaced, well I haven't replaced yet, I've come across, these are quite hard to get hold of. The caps have been replaced and everything like that. It just needs a new fan and it. The fan's a bit dodgy. But everything else has been replaced. But these valves are a bit hard to get hold of. But I found some in England. There's loads in America, but I don't want to pay the import charges. So, you know, I found a couple in England. I've just sent them an email to make sure they got the top caps on. Because in the picture that he's taken of them on his website, they're sort of like that. And you can't tell whether it's got a top cap on it or not. Because they've still got the same number, EL509. Or 6KD6, but they do them with and without top caps. And without the top cap, that's for receivers or audio amplifiers. But for an RF amplifier, you need this top cap, because where they go in there, and then the top cap comes through that little hole and is attached with that little coil there, and that's what you know, when it plugs in like that, sort of like that, and that's you know, that's how it connects. That's how it works. So when I get my email back from the bloke, and if he says that the ones he's got the two matching pair that he's got the top caps, I'll be buying them from him, putting them in here, and this hopefully will then be a fully working amplifier, which I don't intend on using. I intend on keeping it as you know, in 30 years time I'll have a properly mint condition, fully working, that's dust that is, you know, vintage amplifier in 30 years time. There's no point in keeping it, because the valves are hard to get, there's no point in keeping it if it don't work. Well, keep it if it don't work, but there's no point in keeping it not working. I'd rather keep it but knowing that it is fully working. Anyway, let's talk about this. Now when I done that video talking about how to properly run an amplifier, there was a comment that I got on that video from this chap here, Braxton Hicks, however you pronounce that, waxing lyrical, I think that is. One of the most fundamental things you forgot to say, low pass filter. Most CBers never consider low pass filters. These linears typically have little to none, and some overdriven input, and someone in the 6 meter band suffers. Always add an LPF, a low pass filter, 30 MHz on the output. Also, a ferrite on the power lead would be a good thing to help prevent stray RF getting into the PSU in the mains wiring. And then, in the last couple of hours, there's been some replies to that. Very true in what you say, but it's illegal to amplify CBRF signals, so if someone don't care about that and uses this device, including myself, that last thing on your mind would be to clean the stray RF signals. Or any low pass signal. Who cares, right? No one cares today about anything, I find. That it's all good. And then Mr. Braxton has replied with that. Well, as a ham, I care. If I were on the 6 meter band and was being interfered with by a second harmonic from a CB running illegal power, I would be within my right to complain. By all means, run whatever power you want on 11 meters, 1000 watt for all I care, but don't mess my band up. Now, let's talk about low pass filters. Here be a low pass filter, maximum power 100 watt, so that will be suitable for the burner that we were talking about in question. But the trouble is, yes, these cheaply made, this is a LEM one, this is a different one to the one that was in my other video, and this one needs a new transistor in it when I get round to it. There's £50 for the £50 a pill they are. When I get round to it, get the money aside, I'll repair this one. They don't have a lot of filtering. In fact, they've got nearly none. But a lot of the time, as Theo says, no one really seems to care. And to be honest, you know, if you're going to be using these mobile as they're designed to be used, and people do use them in the shack, and it's always nice to, but if you're going to be using them mobile, you ain't going to need low pass filter in your mobile, because you're going to be out and about, you know, you're driving around, you might be on top of a hill or somewhere, so it's not necessary to use a low pass filter with your mobile. And in my view, if you're using these in the shack, and you get someone, and you don't get any complaints from anybody, no one ever complains to you, there's no need to add a second, there's no need to add anything in line. Yeah, there's no need to add a low pass filter. Insertion loss at 27 megahertz is less than 0.2 dB. It's not a lot of loss on it, but it's still something else in the line. So my view is, if no one complains, there's no need to add it. If you know that you've got hams, or yeah, I did gather that Mr. Braxton would be a ham, as am I. I am also a fellow ham, Mr. Braxton. You know, if you know you've got other people in your vicinity close to you, then, you know, maybe go and have a chat to them and say, look, am I interfering with you, or something like that. But if you don't get any complaints and no one says there's any interference, there's no need to add it. If someone comes up to you and says, look, I think you're interfering with me because my TV goes a bit weird sometimes and things like that, or whatever, then yeah, by all means, put one in and see what happens. And as far as ferrite rings go, just as a matter of stopping RF in my own shack, I have ferrite rings, both these clip-on type, different sorts there, and I also have your more conventional ferrite rings here. I've still got my spare box. This is, but I've got ferrite rings on every single power. I've got ferrite rings on the coax. I've got ferrite rings on the power cables for my radio and from the power supply. You know, I've even got a ferrite on my microphone cable there. Alright, because I've got them anyway, so I just clip it on, because I've had it in the past where from the power mic, the RF's been getting into the mic cable, you see, and causes a bit of a buzzing sound. Put that ferrite ring on, that ferrite clip on there, and it stopped it completely. But that wasn't with this mic, it was with a different one. But I always have that on there just anyway, because, you know, if you put a ferrite ring on a cable, it's not going to have any bad effects, to my knowledge. It'll either help or it will just do nothing whatsoever. So having it on there is not going to be an issue. No, we've got this little grey one here, you know. So ferrite rings go, not necessarily 100% must, but it's always good to have ferrite rings on your power cables, because these days the main supply, if you've got a power supply, powering your radios, the main supply coming into your house is full of RF, absolutely full of it, from Chinese stuff, from all sorts of stuff. And what happens is that comes into your house, that then goes up the power cable into your power supply, which then comes out your power supply and goes into your radio and causes you interference. And don't forget, interference also usually comes from your antenna. I don't know why we're talking about bloody interference when this is meant to be a burner video, but interference, if you've got your antenna somewhere on the side of your house, you know, the interference will come from the antenna. It's not necessarily in the shack, you know. It can get, the antenna will pick it up and it will come down your coax on the outside, on the outside insulate of your coax, come into your radio that way. That's why I always have ferrite rings and an RF choke, maybe sometimes. I haven't got one at the moment, but I got one on the 2 meter side, an RF choke, to try and choke out any RF that may be coming in. And as a result, my noise floor on HF CB, which is HF, but it's separate because of all the hams are going to get annoyed if I call it the same, and on 2 meters the noise floor is 0. There is no noise. I'll show you, look at this. This is I just use a Voyage for a CB, just ordinary CB. I don't do any of that using HF sets for CB. Turn it on. That's on. Look at that noise. Nothing. Zilch. A little bit of a twitch there, but not a lot. And that's on channel 15 at the moment. I dare say if we flick it up to 19, there might be no one chatting on 19 either. Noise is still there, look. And without the ferrite rings, it's about 3 on the noise generally, but with the ferrite rings, you know, look at that. Oh, we've got someone talking.
Get me snake here, I'm going to get a frequency counter fitted, and then I'll get on to...
Turn the squelch up and squelch him out, but look...
I'm looking at your post about frequency counter,
but there you go, a little bit of a thing about ferrite rings there, just to answer that. So, you know, my opinion on the old... I don't think Mr. Braxton's going to like my opinion on the low pass filter about only putting it in if you're causing interference. But like I said, if you know that you've got fellow radio operators, whether it be CBers or ham operators, whether you're a ham or not, you've still got a duty of care even as a CBer. It might be a free band, but it's still you've got a duty of care. And if you are interfering with somebody, you do need to sort it out. You know, you might have to go into someone's house and put ferrite rings around their plugs or whatever, you know, whatever you got to do. But if you know that you've got fellow radio operators around, and it's always nice to be courteous, and, you know, but avoid putting one in unless you have to. That's my advice, because the less junctions or the less things in line, the better in your coax. The more things, some people have bloody... you know, they have like bloody radio, meter, another meter, a burner, and a bloody low pass filter, whatever. Loads of stuff in line. You don't need 2 meters. I mean, you don't even need a meter in line. But I like to keep a meter in line, so I'm a hypocrite. I like to just make sure that you know, my SWR is good all the time and all that. But that's just me, you know. But the less things in line, the better. It's best just to have a radio antenna, if you can have that. So, yeah, a low pass filter is handy, but, you know, as I just explained, only if you need it, in my opinion. But these things anyway, my whole video was supposed to be telling you about how to use them properly and to use them properly. And these are designed to be used mobile in a car. So, yeah, there we go. Anyway, I just thought I'd better make a video on that, because I thought it was a very good thing that Mr. Braxton there, he pointed out. I thought that was very handy, and I thought I'd better add that in, you know? Well, at least add my opinion on it anyway. Because it's never any good, especially well, you know, I don't experience it here because there's no one where I live. There's only one person down the road, but he's just a CBer and he's never on anyway. And there's a person down the road with a 2 meter area up, but I've never heard him on 2 meters. But anyway, I know people that live next to other people, and one of these people is on a CB and he does run power. He runs a fair amount, a low amount these days. He runs about 100 watts. And there's a person that lives just down the road from him, and if one of them is on channel 19, for example, and the other one is on channel 18 or 17, or the other way around, 20 or 21, again, he gets a lot of bleed over, and he can hear him, you know, because his signal's so wide, you know, he's just splattering all over the place. And that can be bad. You know, that's what you need to stop, and that's what you need to sort out. That's what Mr. Braxton there is talking about. But then again, as a radio operator, CB or not, you just need to. It's no good just going, well, I've heard people on there, you know, saying, oh, my neighbour said I was complaining, but I want to go on the radio. It's none of their business. I'm on the radio. Simple as that. That ain't the way you got to be, my friends. All right, you just got to be nice. And that can also be the difference between. You got to think about it. Those of you that live in a council house or a council flat, or in a housing estate or something, right? If your neighbour says that you're interfering with them, and you just go, nah, fuck off, you know, I'm not interfering, I'm not doing anything about it. You're not making me take my antenna down or whatever. And then you could end up making enemies, and then, you know, you could end up being forced to take your antenna down because you live in a council place. You know, mate, you might even lose your planning permission or whatever. But if you go to your neighbour, sorry, let me see if I can help you with that. Let me see if I can do something about it. And you try and work with them to stop the interference. So they're happy they got no interference, and you're happy because you still get to do your hobby. You got to think about it, my friends. And a lot of people that don't, and they just go straight in, you know. Make sure you think cleverly about it, yeah? As I've said, and I'll say it again, any more questions or anything else that you think that I've missed out or got wrong, or you just don't like my opinion, then please, by all means, put it in the comments. I mean, I had a hater on my other video, and I rather enjoyed reading his comments because he gave me extra views. I'll catch you on the next one, dudes, and in the meantime I'm gonna wait for my email for my valves, and then after that I'm going to save up me £50 to buy myself a new pill to put in here, and I'll have this one up and going. This is quite an old one, I think, this Lem. Don't know how old these are, it's had a beating. I get these off of eBay and other places that, when word of mouth, people say to me, oh, I know someone that's selling some radio equipment but it's broken or whatever. I get it quite cheap. And yeah, I think I paid £2 for this Lem burner here. Like I say, don't key up, the pill's broken. It's been overdrived or just run too hot, or maybe even with high SWR, I don't know, but needs a new pill. And yeah, all fun and games, my friends. Take care, and I really appreciate you watching.